Summary of setting out. We've found our first reference point is this pier. Hook the tape on. I've got help today. Keep measuring. Mark. There we go, make our mark. That's us. That's where we're going to be setting out the house. Next we're going to scale our drawing, get our measurement. We're measuring off this line. Put our first pin number 1. At the width of our house. So we come up here, our house is 9.2. We measure out the distance of our house. It's there. Put pin number 2. Pin number 3, we're going to measure out the width of our house, 15.2, which is here. We then use Pythagoras theorem to work out this diagonal, which is 17.767. But these two tapes meet at 15.2, the width of our house, and 17.767, the length of our diagonal. That gives a perfect square of the house. We can now find point 4 of our house, which is here. Pin number 4, we measure from pin number 2 down 15.2, which is the width of our house, and then we measure from pin number 3, measure up 9.2, which is the width of our house, which will give us a perfect square, well, rectangle, sorry. We've measured across 15.2 and measured up 9.2. That then sets the whole house out. That's it, done. To get our sunroom, we take a line from pin number 1, pin number 2, take it parallel here, back here to this pin. That gives us a parallel line. This sunroom comes parallel off this house, but it's back a distance of 300 millimeters. So you measure in 300 millimeters, put a pin here and a pin down there, and that's giving you and then you measure across here the width of your sunroom. So that is perfectly square to this point. It's giving you a perfect right angle triangle. So to get this pin, all you have to do is measure up the distance of your sunroom and across the width of your sunroom, and that'll give you a perfect square. After this, you'll then go to your inside walls. Simple enough, you just measure parallel across. This one's 4 meters at the top, 4 meters here, 4 meters here, put a pin, lime it. This one here has quite a bit of a stagger in it, so parallel line across here, put a pin here, measure down where the wall staggers, put a pin, lime that. You then come across the width of your porch, put a pin, measure up the distance, put a pin and lime it. The same for this last wall. Measure from this far gable here, put a pin, measure into where it staggers, put a pin, lime it. The front room is shorter, so you'll measure across, put a pin, measure across, put a pin and lime it. Okay, so here's a video from above from the drone. It's just sort of to try and explain again to make it easier. If it does, might complicate it, I don't know. But here we are, here I am at the minute. I scaled the drawing, measuring out the distance. I've put a pin. I'm now measuring up to get pin number 2. I've measured up 9.2. I've measured out the 5 meters from the wall and I've put a pin. This is now a parallel line. I'm now walking to get pin number 3. I'm using my first measuring tape, coming out 15.2, which takes me to that point there. At this stage, I now need a second measuring tape. I'm just going to get it. Here I have it now. I'm coming down. So with this tape, it's 17.767 is this diagonal. Using Pythagoras theorem, you can work this out. So where 15.2 and 17.767 meet, that's where the pin goes. So then you go to find pin number 4, take the tape up and you measure out 15.2 along the back. I now need my second tape for this, so I need to wind it up quickly here. Take it off this first pin and take it down and put it on pin number 3. So the line on it gets stuck. So now, wish that guy would hurry up a bit, he's very slow. So put the tape on pin number 3, measure up the width of the house. In this case it's 9.2. Measure up 9.2, and where 9.2 meets 15.2 on the tape, That's pin number 4. Put your 4th pin in. At this stage, I didn't realize the drone wasn't really getting that sunroom at the back, but I can explain it here anyway. From pin number 1 and pin number 2, you put on a string line and you take it up, say, doesn't matter, 7 meters past the back corner of the house. That's giving you a parallel line. The sunroom is set out off this parallel line. I know the distance that it is 300 millimeters back from the gable of the house. So I measure up the distance of my sunroom, which is 4.8. I measure in the 300 millimeters that it steps in from the sunroom, and I put a pin. And then measure out the width of the sunroom. This is going to be perfectly square, so all you need to do is measure out the distance of the sunroom, put the pin, and measure up for pin number 3. You don't need a diagonal on it because it's square already off the house. You can't go wrong. Although it doesn't hurt to double check. Once you've that done, you're going to measure out 4 meters here for your internal wall, put a pin, go down, measure over 4 meters again, put a pin. That gives us the parallel line for that wall, and then you put a string line on it and you put lime on the ground for digging. You can measure across from this wall. I know this to be 2.4. This distance is 4.5, so measure up 4.5 to where the wall staggers. Measure over 2.4, the width of my hallway again, put a pin and lime it. I know this measurement to be 2.8, so measure across 2.8, put a pin, go to the back of the house, measure over 2.8, put a pin and lime it. I now know this, measure from this gable, this room is 4.5 meters, measure over 4.5, then come down come down, measure across 4.5, put a pin and lime it. Again, these 3 inside walls, or our 3 structure walls, they're going to be carrying the load from the joist and the load from the crippled studs in the roof as well. So that's why we only need to do these 3. We don't need to do the gable to gable walls. And then just measure our porch real quick. Is measuring out to 1.2, measure across to 2.4, do the diagonal, that'll give it square, and that's more or less it.